John, is the last graphic I posted, the purple and pink one. All right, I think we are live. We are live. We'll wait for a couple of people to join here. Hopefully more than a couple of people. It is 9:04. Apologize for the slightly late start. Trying to work through some technical difficulties. If you joined us last night, then you know I had some trouble with screen sharing. Thought I had that resolved earlier this evening, and lo and behold, it's not resolved. And so I'm getting some things passed over to John here to hopefully screen share with us as we go through. Welcome to those of you who are joining. I'm MemphisWeather.net meteorologist Eric Procius, and this is the second and last edition of our MWN Hangouts on this particular weather event that starts in less than 12 hours. In fact, it might be as much as 6 or as little as 6 hours from now. And we're going to kind of talk through some of the details. We'll not spend as much time as we did last night with all the various models and that kind of thing. I just want to basically get most of the main information out to you about what to expect tomorrow. We're going to talk through some things that you can expect during the day and perhaps how long we can expect these impacts to last. I'm joined again by John Maddox there in the middle, and he's going to be helping us out again this evening. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Eric.
Glad to have you back with us, and glad that you could sneak this in. John is going to be commuting into Memphis this evening with his wife, who's a nurse and has to be on shift tomorrow morning early, and so they're going to take up residence here in Shelby County instead of out in Fayette County, so they make sure that she can get to work. Good
That's
man,
right.
John.
Yeah, well, you know, she does the hard work. She's the nurse, so I'm just along for the ride.
Hopefully not a lot of car accident victims coming in tomorrow. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, hope not.
Yes. And again, we got Daniel Gafford with us. You got something else written on your board there, Daniel.
Oh, I don't know how that got there. But yeah, it's I survived Ice Storm 94. I've seen that floating around Twitter, so I figured, why not?
And you were here in '94, so...
I was 4th grade.
The fact that you're sitting here...
We're gonna move on quickly.
Yes, we are. Yeah, I had an interest in weather already by the ice storm in '94, and I wasn't in 4th grade, but I wasn't too far behind or ahead of you there. All right, so your presence here tonight is proof that you survived it, and hopefully we'll be able to have our next hangout, and you'll write "I survived Winter Storm 2016" behind you on the next one. We're going to jump right in here, and I think I'm going to start with the high-level overview of what we're expecting. So I'm going to ask John to do my screen sharing for me. If you would show that pink and purple graphic that I put on social media in the last hour here, John. We're going to start with the highlights and let everybody know what to expect tomorrow. Rain is moving into the area, and we have a couple of different features we're going to be kind of concerned about as far as what brings us our weather for the next 24 hours or so. The first is a low-pressure system, a surface low-pressure system that is forming now down over eastern Louisiana into southern Mississippi, and that surface low is going to deepen pretty rapidly overnight, strengthen as it moves to the northeast. It'll be by about 6 a.m. tomorrow. It'll be over western Alabama, say west of Birmingham, which is a little bit farther to the south than we talked about last night, a little bit farther southeast, in fact. And that will continue off to the east, kind of reform off the mid-Atlantic coast by tomorrow, become the nor'easter that slams the northeast and mid-Atlantic as we head into the late Friday into Saturday period, but we're going to focus here on Memphis. The other feature of note is going to be an upper level vorticity maximum, or an upper level low, that is spinning around over southwestern Arkansas, and that is going to be coming northeast and move just to the south of Memphis. We'll look at that here in a minute. That is the other feature that is going to enhance snowfall totals. So those are the two main features we're concerned about. They do seem to be pretty much on track right now with about what we expected. Temperatures right now are around 35 degrees here at MWN and Bartlett, 36, 37 at the airport. That is also maybe just a couple of degrees cooler than I might have expected at this time last night. However, after we saw the high only reach the upper 30s today, it is about where I expected us to be at this point. So things are kind of coming together, right on track, and I'm going to go ahead and show this graphic that John has up here. This is a graphic I put together just about an hour ago for the highlights of our storm tomorrow. So first of all, this is going to be a significant winter storm. We do expect that there are going to be fairly widespread impacts throughout pretty much all of the metro area. And when I refer to the metro area tonight, I am speaking of the 8 counties from Tipton down to Tate, from Crittenden County east to Fayette, with Shelby and Memphis right in the center of that. Winter storm warnings are in effect. They go into effect now over west of the river, and they will start at midnight for the areas east of the Mississippi River and continue through the day tomorrow. We do expect this to be a high-impact event. The main concerns are going to be dangerous travel and scattered power outages as well. We are looking for probably a good 3 to 6 inches of snow, depending on where you are and where the heaviest bands of snow set up. There is some thought to the possibility that some areas in the metro, maybe between that upper level low and the deformation zone that sets up around the surface low, which is the area of heavy snow around the northwest side of the surface low. Between those areas, we may only see a couple of inches, maybe 2 to 3. But I think either of those particulars, the upper level low or the kind of the wraparound around the surface low, could fairly easily get into the 4 to 6 inch range. Strong gusty winds is going to be another significant factor, and those winds are going to pick up overnight tonight out of the north. And by the time you get going in the morning, we'll be seeing those gusting up to 25 to 30 miles an hour. And during the morning hours tomorrow, we expect wind gusts to be probably in the 30 to 40 mile an hour range. That on top of the snow that is falling and maybe even a little bit of drifting around, in fact, is going to complicate matters, especially with respect to travel conditions, because the snow will be blowing all over the place. It is not going to be a very nice, pretty, just kind of stand outside and let it float down around you type of event. This will be snow blowing sideways, up, down, all around. Maybe kind of hard actually to measure totals because it's just going to be blowing all over the place. Let's talk a little bit about transition time. So we've got the rain that is moving through during the evening and most of the overnight hours tonight. The timing I have on this graphic here says 4 a.m. For a start time. I think that is kind of a middle-of-the-road guess. Areas to the west of us, Crittenden County, and then points kind of west and north of that, Jonesboro down to Forest City, will be earlier than that. I think that could be, we're already starting to see some freezing drizzle up around the Jonesboro area. In fact, that's not the main event that's coming through. But temperatures will fall down towards freezing in those areas, perhaps as early as 2 or 3 a.m. In the Memphis metro area, crossing the river, Tipton County, Memphis, Shelby County, western DeSoto, Tunica County, probably right around 4 a.m. It could come a little bit earlier than that based on the latest data we've been looking at this evening. And then areas just to the east of us from the metro, eastern Fayette County, over towards Jackson, down to Marshall County, Oxford, will probably be just a little bit later than that, perhaps around 5 to 6 a.m. So that is the transition time that we go into a freezing rain, sleet type of precipitation. And it won't take very long, though, for that to change over to snow. I expect that we'll be in a somewhat of a mix between rain to ice to snow, that transition could take maybe 2 hours. So probably by 6 to 8 a.m. expect to see all snow, depending on where you are, or a little bit earlier to the west, a little bit later to the east. So I expect that rush hour, whatever that is tomorrow morning, is mostly going to be impacted by snow and perhaps the tail end of some of this ice. The snow will continue throughout the morning hours. Some periods of that could be heavy, especially in the areas where the deformation zone sets up or where the heavier snowfall totals are, and I expect that will be, we'll look at a graphic in a minute, but that will set up over West Tennessee down into the Mississippi Delta. A little bit of question about where Memphis falls on the back edge of that, but at this point in time, I think that we have a pretty good chance of being in that for a little bit. And so we could see some fairly significant snowfall totals, maybe an inch an hour or perhaps a little bit more. I cannot rule out the possibility because of some pretty strong lift in the atmosphere with this system. It is a very dynamic system that's moving through. Could hear a rumble of thunder or two during the heavier periods of snow, and that would just enhance the snowfall totals. That just means that there's lots of lift in the atmosphere, and that would enhance those totals. So those areas would be probably up on the higher end, closer to the 6-inch range. And in fact, areas to our northeast, say from Jackson, Tennessee, up towards Paris now, even looking like they may go up towards 8 to 10 inches with this event during the day tomorrow. The snow will start to wind down by early afternoon, I think. I expect to still see some flurries and definitely some blowing and stuff going on during the afternoon. Winds will continue 30-35 miles an hour during the afternoon. Temperatures will be falling down to around 30 to 28 or so during the afternoon and kind of sticking right around that range. And so that's going to make it not only very cold, but with the wind blowing, wind chills down in the teens, blowing snow, all of that good stuff. So not a good day to travel. We're going to call it dangerous, treacherous. Just avoid the roads if at all possible tomorrow, unless you absolutely have to. And then, of course, exercise all safety precautions if you are going to be out. Stay away from everybody else. I know that you know how to drive. It's everybody else around you. So you're going to want to make sure that you're very, very careful if you have to be out tomorrow. So in sum, as far as the impacts are concerned, a minor icing event. We may see up to 1/4 of an inch or so of ice, but I don't think it's going to be any more than that in the morning, and that would be mainly sleet. Heavy snow, 3 to 6 inches, strong gusty winds, very cold wind chills, scattered power outages because the snow that's going to come down, even though it's going to be blowing around, is going to be a fairly heavy, wet snow, and that will kind of accumulate on some of the power lines. In on the tree branches and so forth, so if they hit power lines, we could see some scattered power outages tomorrow. So that's something to be aware of as well. So that's kind of a summation of the event. I do want to switch over, John, if we could, to just take a look at the GFS model real quick. This is the midday GFS model that he's going to show. And it's just to give you an idea of where that deformation zone may set up. I think it had a fairly decent handle on that. And also where this vorticity maximum is. So as he gets to that, you'll be able to see those features and kind of where that heavier snow band may set up.
Sorry, Eric, is this the right?
That's the right graphic. Yep. If you'll switch that over to the snowfall or accumulated snow.
Sorry.
That's all right.
6-hour snow, is that?
Yep. No, move over one. I can't see to the right of that, but there should be a total snow.
Hold on, let me.
Sorry,
right.
folks. I'm getting there.
All right. Snow.
This is only because I can't screen share for some reason tonight. I'm checking again. I still can't. Should
Snow
have
depth.
snow. Is there a total snow or accumulated ACC snow?
There we go.
That's it. And then if you'll go up to the upper right and click on the U.S. states and maybe choose Arkansas, that'll zoom us into the Memphis area.
Sorry, I'm having to zoom here. Let's see.
Yeah, that's all right. There you go. Hit Arkansas. There we go. Let's look at that one there. So this is just to give you an idea of where these features are and the snow that is occurring because of them. So the upper level low right now is over southwestern Arkansas. And so that low is going to be moving east and just to our south. And so the snow that it's showing here on this model across central and southern Arkansas is a result of that vorticity max or upper level low that's going to be moving through that area. And basically what that does is that enhances the lift in the atmosphere and generates the heavier snowfall totals. So that is a result of that. Now over here in West Tennessee from North Mississippi around Marshall County up through a hot spot there in Fayette County. John, that was probably maybe a good idea to evacuate Fayette County if this is right. And then continuing up to the northeast, there's kind of a curved feature that goes across West Tennessee and then up into Kentucky. That is the snow that will fall around the backside of the low pressure system tomorrow that will be moving out of eastern Mississippi and into northern Alabama. So that curve is basically the north and west sides of that low, and that is what we call the deformation zone, where you have the warm, moist air lifting up around the low into the cold air, and it generates heavier snowfall totals. So I'm not looking at this necessarily for specific totals, but you can kind of see the setup of where the heavier snow could be is right in that kind of arc. And depending on where that arc sets up, if it moves a little bit back to the west, we'll be right under the heaviest snow of that. If it's just to the east, the heavier snow will be just east of the metro. But you see, even between those different areas, you still see 2 to 3 inch snow amounts in there. So I don't suspect that we're going to have a problem with getting a couple of inches of snow pretty easily tomorrow. And if we get set up under one of those particular features, then snow totals will definitely rise accordingly. The other graphic I think I sent was the NAM, and I don't know. Yeah, maybe we can take a quick look at that if you would. The second link, there you go. And if you'll just center that, and we can just rock through the frames. So let's take that back. It's at 84 hours. There's 0. So let's start right there. And are you able to scroll up any? Maybe not. You're still okay. So basically, this purple color right down here around Texarkana, this is the center of that upper level low I was talking about in its current position, or as of 6 p.m. this evening. So you'll have to scroll just a little bit. But if you'll take that forward maybe 2 steps, John, 2 clicks forward, and that should get us. So you can see where that low is about midnight tonight. You see it's kind of shifted to the east. Pretty strong upper level low. This is a closed low, which means that it has those concentric circles around it, and a closed low just indicates the strength of that system, and the purples indicate a fairly good amount of upward motion in that low as well. And this is up at the upper low, meaning we're looking up here at about 18,000 feet in the atmosphere. So, but it is an area there where you have lift in that area that can enhance snowfall amounts. And take me maybe 2 or 3 more steps there, John, if you would. And we'll watch the progression of that moving to the east. And so there we go. And there's where it is as of 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So it moved from southern Arkansas down to our south. The optimal track for that low to get us the heaviest snowfall would be slightly further to the north, coming up closer to Memphis. Although, since we have the low moving by to the south and you got the deformation zone coming in from the west, either one of those could be just enough to really push the snowfall totals up a little bit. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of the background on some of the things we're looking at. I won't go into great detail. This is not a model course we're running tonight, but that's kind of the situation. That third tab there, one more, John. This is the NOAA's graphic for the probability of snowfall, and so we're looking at basically, if you'll go down, John, to the bottom right where it says Map Overlays, click the Accumulation Contours checkbox there for me. And so this is the 50th percentile. And what we're looking at here basically is a most likely situation, or most likely amount of snow that we could receive. And you see that the darker green poking down towards Memphis there is the edge of the 4-inch snowfall total, and up where the blue is up closer to 6 inches. So basically what this is saying is the National Weather Service is giving us the most likely scenario for snowfall totals through 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. Now this doesn't have, it kind of smooths out a lot of the detail and so forth, but you see there's kind of a bend in the heavier totals down around southern Arkansas where that vortex is going to move through, and then you've got the deformation zone which curls around from Memphis up into Kentucky. Worst case scenario would be the 90th percentile. We'll take a quick glance at that just for kicks here. So this is the 90th percentile, meaning only 1 in 10 of these types of events would produce more than this. And Memphis is solid in the 6-inch range there. So pretty comfortable right now with going with somewhere in the 3 to 6 inch category somewhere in the metro as far as snowfall is concerned. All right, so that kind of gives you the overview of what we're expecting. I will be glad to take questions, and those will come from you guys that are following us. So if you're following us on Twitter, feel free to hit us up with the WXChat hashtag. If you are following on the MWN Hangout page, we have a chat box down there for you that you can send your questions in on, and we'll take a few of those now. If I have to work tomorrow, what are the best travel condition times? You need to be out early. We just talked about the transition time being maybe in the 4 to 5 a.m. range. It's not going to get bad immediately then. But it will definitely go downhill by the time the sun comes up around 6 or 7 in the morning. So if you have to be out and you can go in early, that's the best time to do it. You guys seeing any other questions out there? I think we've got a couple in the chat. Or any other comments while I'm looking these up, John or Daniel?
Someone in the chat asked about driving to Nashville early Saturday, and should they punt on that? And I would say yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I've had that question a few times today. In fact, I've had some questions about going back and forth to Nashville tomorrow. Definitely do not recommend that. If you can delay at all, recommend that you delay. You saw from the graphic that we showed a minute ago that wraparound precipitation does go into the Nashville area. They're expecting multiple inches of snow as well tomorrow. Saturday morning, here's the problem with Saturday morning. We have, say, 3-4 inches on the ground anywhere along that track from here up to Nashville, and temperatures remain in the upper 20s tomorrow. It drops down to 22 to 24 by Saturday morning. And we were thinking earlier that we might get some sun on Saturday, and that would help even if the temperatures only rose to about freezing. The latest model data we're looking at is indicating that we might have a layer of cloud cover all day on Saturday as well. With cloud cover and north wind and temperatures starting in the lower 20s, there is no chance that we'll get to freezing. So the only thing that would help on Saturday with road conditions is going to be cars driving on them or any clearing that might get done by plow or sand trucks, whatever. I would say if you have to go to Nashville, at the earliest, wait till Saturday afternoon if possible and see what the roads and conditions are looking like then. And if it still looks bad, you might have to wait till Sunday. It does look like we're going to get some sun on Sunday. Sun is going to help even with temperatures just below freezing, but we should be back up hopefully to around 40, lower 40s on Sunday afternoon. If you're following and are heading towards Nashville or in the Nashville area, highly recommend that you follow on Twitter Nash Severe WX, N-A-S-H Severe WX on Twitter. He is my equivalent over there in Nashville, does a fantastic job. That's a great follow. What other questions do we have? You guys see anything?
We got one. It's related. Road still probably impassable Saturday morning. We've already talked about that. One other question, how long will the accumulation last? And I think we've covered that. It's going to be primarily most of the morning through maybe early afternoon, and then the snow sticks around through Sunday.
Yep, exactly. I got a question from Steven on WX Chat hashtag. You can send your questions to WX Chat as well. And he is seeing varying amounts from different TV stations and so forth. Why are the numbers all over the place? And that really has to do with which computer models these various entities are hanging their hats on, and really also where these particular upper level features that we just described set up. And so I think even if we're kind of in between those features, we still could get a good 2 to 3 inches of snow. If we happen to get under one of the stronger bands, then it could go higher than that. And in fact, the latest graphic that the Weather Service put out just about an hour ago has new, more detailed timing and updated snowfall totals. And the Memphis metro area timing start and end of frozen precipitation, they say 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. That includes Crittenden, Tipton, Shelby, DeSoto, Tunica, 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. and they're giving Memphis 5 to 8 inches now. And for, say, Fayette County, Marshall County, Tate County, the areas just east of the metro, the main metro area, starting around 6 a.m. for the frozen precipitation, going until 6 p.m. And as I indicated, heavier totals up to our northeast, and they have Paris, Tennessee, and Henry County up there around the land between the lakes at 8 to 12 inches now. So they're pretty much doubling down on the heavier precipitation and where that band is going to set up. So we'll see how that works out. Right now, we're sticking with what we had, which was in the 4 to 6 inch range. I see a question about, is it going to be good snowman conditions? John, are we going to have good snowman conditions tomorrow?
I think so. I think with the moisture content, I think that it. Hang on. No, there we go. I think with the moisture content, I think it will, because it'll be a good packy snow. It'll be the same things we're talking about for the power lines and the trees and all that being a problem. It'll be real good to make snowballs. Not that I would encourage throwing snowballs at one another, but you know, it's good snowman material. We'll go with that. Hope you bought your carrots.
Yeah, I think
we're ready to go.
What's that?
We're ready to go with that.
Yeah. snow forts and all that. Here's the issue we'll have to deal with tomorrow with building snowmen, and I'm not dissuading anybody from going out and building a snowman. You may only get one chance this year, who knows? But that wind is going to be vicious tomorrow morning and into early tomorrow afternoon. If you're sending your kids out to go play in the snow tomorrow, please make sure they're bundled up, the scarves around them, and keep an eye on how long they're out there. Check on them every 15 minutes or so, and just make sure, because hopefully not, but with that kind of wind and cold temperatures in the upper 20s, frostbite is a scenario that's possible. So if you send your kids out at 8 in the morning and you don't see them again till noon, they may be quite red when they come in from just the snow and wind just blowing against their little faces. So keep an eye on that tomorrow. Check on them, let them play, but certainly keep an eye on that.
I think that's one thing that we're going to have to adjust a little bit to. Usually we get what you talked about earlier, Eric, with the stand outside and watch the snow fall down around us, and this is going to be a little bit different. People ask me a lot, for those who don't know, I lived in Chicago for a year, and people say, what's snow like in Chicago? Tomorrow will be what snow is like in Chicago, and you will see why people from Chicago do not enjoy snow tomorrow. That's the kind of snow they get up there. So, yeah, just bundle up, gloves, or actually, which is better, mittens or gloves?
Something
mittens
that's tight-fitting to your wrist.
Yeah. So,
Waterproof.
Waterproof would be great. Yep, yeah. Especially with the snow kind of heavy and packing. A couple other questions I see here, and actually this reminds me of a couple of things also. First of all, one is, if we're going to experience blizzard-like conditions, why not a blizzard warning? That's from Seth on Twitter. The definition for a blizzard warning requires at least a 3-hour consecutive period of winds 35 miles per hour or higher, with snow blowing and visibility reduced to 1/4 of a mile. We may see those conditions briefly here and there in various areas. We may get an hour where the wind keeps up that high to 35 or higher. The confidence in that occurring and exactly where that is going to occur is not high enough at this point, I don't think, to do that. So that question was actually posed to the Weather Service this afternoon as well, and that was basically their answer. They're the ones that issue those warnings, and there's just not high enough confidence in the criteria being met. That does not mean that we won't see periods of blizzard-like conditions. You may look out your window and see the snow absolutely blowing sideways out there, and maybe not be able to see 4 or 5 blocks down the street. But they don't think that that's going to be occurring for a long enough period to warrant the blizzard warning. Question has come up today also about airport conditions, and as we mentioned last night, the Memphis International Airport is fully equipped to handle a significant snow event, probably much better so than some of the government entities around, and they have smaller area of concern as well. Their primary focus is to keep the runways clear, but with winds blowing at 35 miles an hour, it's going to be hard to do that. Airlines will keep the passenger safety as a top priority. The last thing they want is lawsuits on their hands because of something happening. And so check with your airline. If you have a flight tomorrow, check with them before you head to the airport, and give yourself plenty of time to get to the airport if you're going to be driving in conditions that are hazardous. If it takes you 30 minutes to get to the airport and you need to be there an hour ahead of time, don't leave an hour and a half before your flight. Maybe leave 2.5 hours before your flight, because it's going to take you twice as long as you think it's going to take you, and you want to make sure you allow yourself plenty of time when you get there as well. So I expect that we could see some canceled flights. I expect to see delays as well. The airlines are fully aware of the situation that will be going on here. They have their meteorology units that are keeping them abreast of those things. I happen to know that for a fact. And so they will do what is necessary, and they would sure rather cancel with the rules that are in place now about the tarmac rules, where they can't sit on the tarmac with people there for longer than a couple of hours. They will surely cancel more quickly rather than have that condition happen. So that's my thought on the airport. Couple of questions about the track of the upper level low, and perhaps whether or not that's going to go closer to Memphis. It is certainly possible that track of the low will come closer to Memphis. If it does, then we can expect those snowfall totals to be enhanced a little bit. I was just showing one particular model, but it seems to be along the lines of what a lot of other things are showing. So something we'll be keeping an eye on tomorrow as we nowcast this event throughout the morning. I don't see any other questions. You guys see anything else? We'll try and wrap this up here in a minute. I do see one more about looking at the Little Rock radar. It doesn't look like there's a lot of moisture out there right now, and maybe a dry slot to the west that could play into this. So as this low deepens tonight and strengthens, then we will start to see more precipitation breaking out across the area and moving in and forming around that low. So I am not real concerned right now by what's going on the Little Rock radar. In fact, there's actually quite a bit more than there was just an hour or two ago. And I am also seeing a lot of ice pellets starting to mix in from Little Rock down to Hot Springs, down to Arkadelphia, down I-30. There is a zone setting up in that area around this upper level low, and we're starting to get precip, light precip breaking out in southeast Arkansas as well. So I think that's all going to come together. Now I do expect that we will see a drier period later this evening into the early morning hours as the low shifts off to our east and before the upper level low moves in and the deformation zone sets up. So we could be dry, kind of like we are right now. There's some light rain out there, but not much. For the next few hours, but I think by 2 or 3 in the morning we'll start to see that precipitation really pick up in the form of rain, and then it will transition over as the 32-degree line drops south into the area.
Just to kind of piggyback on that real quick, Eric, just down to the south tonight, down south of Jackson, down Lamar County, Mississippi, they've had tornadoes today, so that gives you some idea of the type of storm system we're dealing with. Starting to see some power outages up around Jonesboro. Roads are getting really slick up there from freezing rain. So it takes time. That's the thing, is this thing has to develop, and when it starts, it will fire up pretty rapidly and deepen on us, and that radar will look totally different. The radar looks totally different now up around Jonesboro than it did 30 minutes before we started the hangout. So just patience and
Patience is difficult. It's much easier when you have a steady state system moving in from the west and you know exactly what it looks like now and what it's going to look like when it gets here. This is a developing situation, and so the radar right now is not necessarily indicative of what the radar is going to look like 4 hours from now. We do expect to see that develop more further. All right, any closing comments tonight? We're gonna wrap this up. I know John wants to get on the road, headed in before the freezing precipitation comes in. It's a long ways from Williston into Germantown.
Well, I've got to get the horses fed and watered and the feed bags put on before we can head out. So now, everybody, just be patient. If you can stay at home tomorrow, our office is closed. I think, Daniel, you said you're working from home. If you have that option, just exercise it. Stay at home. Even if you don't enjoy a day off, if you're like me and you have to work, it's better to be somewhere safe and not out trying to drive. And remember, if you have a 4-wheel drive, as I said last night, that's just 4 wheels to flip over upside down in the ditch. You can't go any faster than anybody else. So just be careful, slow down, all the normal stuff.
All right, Daniel, anything else?
Yeah, I was just going to say that it snowed in 2006, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2014, 2015. So yes, it does snow in Memphis. And this is another one that it looks like we'll have about a season's worth of snowfall, maybe plus a couple more inches.
Entirely possible. Yeah, you're right. We do get snow. It just, look at March 4th and 5th last year. And if you want to try and compare snowfall totals, we are in the ballpark for what we got last year, somewhere in that range. So get out those old pictures of your kids playing in the snow back on March 5th when we got down to 20 degrees in March and set a record low. After the heavy snow came down on the 4th and into the 5th, it could be what we're looking at tomorrow. I wanted to give a quick shout-out, kudos to the school systems. Thank you for canceling schools preemptively rather than waiting till 5 in the morning. We can all make our plans for tomorrow much better that way. Obviously, this was a little bit more of maybe a no-brainer type situation than it might be if we were looking at, well, can we get a half an inch? Let's see what the roads look like at 5 a.m. So Thank you for doing that from all of the parents out there and all of the kids who are applauding behind me right now. We'll close out just by letting you know that you can continue to follow us throughout the event tomorrow. We'll be up early tomorrow morning and covering this throughout the day tomorrow on MemphisWeather.net. You'll find us on Twitter at MemphisWeather1, on the Facebook at MemphisWeather1, MemphisWeather.net there as well. We will continue to provide the latest updates in those areas. You can get the latest information also on the forecast, current conditions, your radar, and everything off the MWN app. It is a very inexpensive 99 cents, and you get a real human-powered forecast. That is me writing the forecast. That is not a model that flips every time you turn your phone over. So make sure that you check that out. We really appreciate those of you who are taking part in getting the app. It helps to support what we do here as well. So thank you very much for that. We'll keep you updated, and for John and Daniel, I think that's all we've got for tonight. Everybody be safe tomorrow and have fun. Good night.